No holographic billboard in my eyes. No new false promise realized and magnified by no new models pretending to wear my size. No new sales hoisted each week on the mast of my inbox. Discounts on the thin socks. Letting me win, not. Instead, let's be real. Once a day or less, don't steal my attention or manifest tension like an anti-masseuse. Reveal like Dr. Seuss. No holographic billboard in my eyes. Yes, my window clear of flyers. Yes, Pinocchio like liars transformed into honorable friars. Don't tell me the chocolate heals me.
Despite Aaron briefing me on this poem, performing it for me before the episode so that I wouldn't laugh or get too...
Why would you laugh? It's a serious poem.
It's the style just brings a lot of joy to me.
Right.
That being slam poetry.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, there's no one here for you to compete with, but you still were trying to make the punches land.
I've been trying to, not speak so monotone because I do have a podcast.
You do. So, hey everyone, welcome back to Solacene, the podcast where every week Aaron starts us off with a poem that kind of introduces the topic. We're currently in a semester on sustainable fashion. This week we're going to be talking about advertising.
Ooh.
It's not a ghost.
My poem kind of closed by referencing a classic Silver Age episode of SpongeBob, which I think is called Chocolate with Nuts or something like that. The one where Patrick and SpongeBob are going around selling chocolate. And the moral of the story is basically don't lie when you're trying to sell things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such a strange message for a kid's TV show when you think about it. Like, I know there's a lot of shows about honesty, but this was like honesty in advertising.
Yeah, it was very specific. I feel like the writers that week had a very specific vendetta.
Maybe.
That they were trying to teach a lesson with.
So today we're going to start off by talking about the advertising that worked on us. Kind of a personal tell-all, I suppose. I thought that poem kind of led you in nicely because you are always falling for chocolate advertising campaigns, right?
I've been indoctrinated, really.
Yeah.
Once.
Indoctrinated. Oh.
But I definitely am a sucker for advertising, as they say, because I'm a very empathetic person, and that's like the number one rule of advertising is to like create empathy towards the product. And when you think about it, like, it's inanimate. There's no, actual moral.
Do you mean you fall for the Christmas commercials?
Yeah, fall for the Dawn soap.
Oh, with the birds.
Yeah, right. Exactly. But it's like when you think about it, buying this bottle of soap is just putting plastic into the environment. It's not going to save a bird's life, despite what they may be.
But we're focusing on clothes.
We are. Yeah.
So tell me about an item of clothing that you were suckered into buying.
Should I do the garment of the week?
Sure.
I think so.
If it leads in.
It does. So when I first got into sustainable fashion, I was new to it. I didn't know all about the intricacies of how deep people could go with greenwashing. And when I was looking into it, when I began, I watched a lot of YouTube videos about sustainable fashion, and they were all sponsored by
Everlane.
And so I was like, sweet. It must be a sustainable company. You go on their website, their motto is radical transparency, and you're like, sweet, sweet, sweet. So I bought a lot of things from Everlane when I started my sustainable fashion journey, you could say. But then I slowly got into the knowledge of, okay, a company can be 100% sustainable environmentally. Mm-hmm. So the factories they use could perhaps process all their wastewater, they could be low waste, all of these things, but it doesn't equate with human ethics. Like, they might not actually pay their workers a living wage, they might treat their workers really poorly, use slave labor. So that's the thing with Everlane. If you go on the Good On You rating, you would expect, based on how prolific they are in the sustainable fashion space, that they would have a really high rating, but they really just have a middling rating.
Maybe just explain Good On You for the listeners.
Yeah, Good On You is a aggregator, I suppose, a website, and you go on, you type in what brand you're looking for, and they rate it based on, I think, just 4 1 out of 4 sort of thing.
Mhm.
It's like good, bad, really bad, very bad or something.
Yeah, terrible,
And-
no good.
Yeah,
It's like the Rotten Tomatoes of sustainable clothing, maybe.
it is. Yeah. And they do really good work, and they look into, like, they leave no stone unturned sort of thing. And if a company is really good at maybe covering their tracks, they just automatically get a bad rating. It's like if there's no information, they're not going to just give them a good rating. It's like you should have some information.
Because it's more likely that if they were really exemplary, they would be shouting from the rooftops. I
Exactly.
suppose.
So that's kind of part of the thing with Everlane is like they don't exactly like we don't know for sure what they do wrong, but they definitely leave some gray areas. And yeah, they're better than most places. But that leads me to the garment of the week, which is
A black button-up shirt.
yeah, it's called the Lantern Blouse.
Okay.
So this is a product that not just the greenwashing. I mean, I say that kind of loosely because, as I said, like Everlane's not the worst, but someday if they sponsor us, we'll have to really
Yeah, we'll have to
consider that.
delete this episode.
Yeah. But I mean, we'll get into that later of sponsorships and stuff. But anyway, the Lantern Blouse is just a black V-neck button-up blouse. Like, it's about as simple as it gets.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, you'd be like, oh, it's simple as it gets. Why would you, like, go out of your way to buy this? Especially, like, at the time, I bought this probably 4 or 5 years ago. I wasn't really wearing a lot of button-ups. I was in university. I feel like I was wearing a lot of t-shirts more than anything. But I saw this featured in a YouTube video. And then I was like, oh, that looks really nice in that person. And then I went to the website. And I was like, I won't fall for it too quickly. I'm going to read all the reviews and see what people think of it. And there was this one review that was like, this shirt has changed my life. Like, I wear it all year round. It's so cool in the summer. It's great for layering in the winter. I have it in every color. They were just going on and on and on about this shirt. And I was like, I need it. And it was probably not inexpensive. I can't find the price of it from the time because it was years ago. And if it's still on the website, it's probably double the price now.
You know what you could do?
What?
Check your email.
I could. I do delete my emails, though.
Oh, see, I never do.
Yeah, you should. It's good for the environment because they're stored on a server somewhere. Anyway, the Lantern Blouse. Just like so basic and simple. And it's like for me to have at the time spent probably like $40 or $50 on this, it's just like really it was just the marketing and that review that made me buy it, I think, more than anything.
Okay. So this is maybe, I mean, you talked about good on you and Everlane and the greenwashing potential, but it sounds like you're just a sucker for what could be the equivalent of just an anonymous comment on the internet anywhere.
I am.
You will fall for it.
Yeah.
YouTube comments, could have been an Everlane employee themselves, could have been a bot.
I know.
That's quite worrying.
Yeah. Like I am the target demographic for most marketing, I think. Like I could just and we were at a market yesterday selling our clothes.
Yeah.
This is the thing, we're both really bad with marketing our own things, but we were at this market and I was telling you that when I go to these craft fairs and things, if the person selling the goods is nice to me, like I genuinely will sometimes spend like $20 just because I feel
Yeah.
indebted to them.
It made me want to put you on an allowance.
Like I'm getting better. I just like don't bring money to things. But yeah, it's like I'm very susceptible to marketing. And I want to know about you. I feel like you're slightly less susceptible to marketing than I am.
Well, I had this quote that I thought could I was going to open the episode with it, but then I thought it would be a bit weird to open a Solacene episode with it. That's why I kind of thrust that on you. But it's by an American critic called John Lahr, and he wrote, "Society drives people crazy with lust and calls it advertising." And the reason I'm mentioning this is because, one, I think it's impossible to talk about fashion in 2023, especially advertising, without mentioning that a lot of it is sexually provocative.
Mm-hmm. To put it truthfully.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
we don't usually talk about that on Solacene, but that's like, how can you talk about clothes without talking about the way they're sold and the bodies that they're put on and whatever. But then I was trying to think about which ads, campaigns, or like styles of brands that that I fall for my current self.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think there's any that I am exactly like infatuated with or a sucker for, like you perhaps. And maybe that's because, to bring it back to the market example, I would take a kind of pleasure in not falling for the salesperson and not giving them anything.
In like leading them on and then
and then saying,
walking
"Oh,
away.
by the way, I have no money.
Yeah.
Can I just have it?"
Yeah.
But anyway, something I realized was that often what will prompt me to want to buy something, prompt me to want to spend, is ads for women. Women's clothes.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it's not because I want to buy women's clothes, because I would then buy men's clothes, presumably.
Yeah, from that brand or from a similar brand.
And it's not that I get driven into like a mating frenzy or whatever. I know it's weird. For one thing, I'm already married, but also it's just, I don't know. I think it's something about that, like, I think that's why, and I only realized this when preparing for the episode, I think that's why there's so many magazine covers with women on, or one of the reasons anyway, like you walk through the mall and you'll have like Victoria's Secret or whatever it is, you know, with big posters of women, or not even in lingerie, but maybe like American Eagle or something. Like it's going to be predominantly women on the posters.
That's
and for
true.
one thing, it's because they're marketing to women. There's a stat, it's like 53% of fashion spending is women's clothes.
Yeah.
That was as of 2018. Men's is 31%. The rest is children's. So there's quite a discrepancy there. But so I think obviously it's like we're selling to women, but I also think there's an angle of it where it attracts men. And I don't know if this works both ways, because I think men, from my like primitive understanding of it, are more visual. So I don't think women would be as enticed by seeing men on posters, but maybe they are.
No, that makes a lot of sense, actually. I never thought about that.
Yeah, me neither.
But it's like you'd see a poster of someone that you're attracted to, and then you would want to dress to impress them.
Exactly. I think that's exactly what it is. You dress to impress the models.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And also, yeah, as you're saying, it's like the women will then go in and buy them, but it also will attract the women to go in and spend money, be like, oh, I want my boyfriend to look like someone who would date that model. Like, I feel like it goes all the way
also
around.
the guy who's on the poster. Like, I do think it works there, you know, that way to an extent, but I just realized that when preparing for the episode.
Yeah, that's an interesting observation.
Probably in another episode in the semester, we'll talk more about like the gender dynamics of it, just because I feel like otherwise we'd be beating around the bush too much.
It's true.
But then to answer the question a bit more directly from my past, the ad campaigns, like there's multiple from when I was 12, probably like 11 to 16, when I was really watching, as I said in a previous episode, watching football, soccer intently, playing it intently in teams. So I saw what other people were wearing and that kind of thing. Multiple ad campaigns by Nike and Adidas that I just remember. Like I was the prime candidate for those. There were websites I would just, you know how people wake up and they check like Bloomberg?
Yeah.
I would wake up and check, there's one called soccerbible.com. And they would just talk about new boots or cleats and things like that. Like new collections, new jerseys, like football shirts. That's something that still interests me. You as well, though. You're gaining an appreciation for the fine art of the football shirt.
I do. It's my goal someday to design one.
Yeah.
It'll be for like a random like Brentford or something.
Brentford, right.
I want to design a football jersey.
But do you
for a
think
team.
maybe next week a fun thing to do would be that we rank different sports uniforms by Solacene or something like that.
Let's do that.
But anyway, so going back to the football boots. So to those who are maybe uninformed, and there's probably parallels in other sports, but in football anyway, the brands will have, there isn't just like one Nike boot, for instance. They have different lines, or as they call them, silos.
Silos.
So usually it's 4. So there'll be like the boot for the classy player, the one for the fast player, the one for the powerful player, and the one for like the controlling player.
Oh.
So it's like one for touch, one for speed, one for power, and one for just like being classy. Yeah, like Pokemon, grass type, fire type, whatever. And they all have names that are kind of attuned to those. Like the classy one is called Tiempo, for instance. So like they take from different, different cliches, I suppose, different connotations. And I remember, I'll just detail one campaign. It was in 2013. And often they're also timed for big tournaments when they know that eyes will be on the players, right?
Yeah, makes sense.
In 2013, it's an international tournament, but it's not a massive one like the World Cup. It's called the Confederations Cup. I think it's since been just done away with. But this is really boring. But there was like a prominent Brazilian player called Neymar. You know, probably people know. Is he a household name?
I think Neymar is like pretty close to a household name.
Is the Solacene demographic, how well does that like align with people who know Neymar Jr.?
I don't know. Let us know.
Let us know if you know who Neymar is. And bonus points if you can name his current club. Ooh. But anyway, we'll leave that for next episode. We'll reveal. And so there was this new silo that Nike was revealing. It was called the Hypervenom. They always have cool like compound names like that. Cool to a 12-year-old boy.
Like air quotes,
to a 12-year-old boy, you have to think about that. Or 13. And so it had this crazy like spidery font, whereas like some letters were just elongated and really angular. And the campaign was they were just sending these boxes to all their like prominent athletes, Neymar being one of them. And the boxes all had like a timer on them. Yeah.
Okay.
And the players were like posting on their IG like, oh, what's this? And it was back when I thought that the players were just doing that themselves and that they actually just received these boxes in the mail.
Yeah.
Anyway, long story short, they were cool. They were like orange and black. They had a skull and crossbones on, actually.
So you really fell for that one.
Yeah, I fell for that one.
Yeah. I have a couple more things that I fell for. So like the first one is greenwashing, as I said. Like I still will basically be like, have the item in my cart and be like, should probably dig a little deeper and then dig a little deeper and realize it's just produced at the same factory as Shein or whatever.
Yeah.
But then my next one is repetitive postering, because if I see a poster up enough, I know I might be not like one of the few people who are like this. Even if it looks like something I'm not interested in, I'll still look it up out of sheer curiosity. Pell Mell being one of them. There was this singer who released an EP when we first moved to Montreal.
Yeah.
And this man just had posters everywhere. And I was like...
Shout out Pell Mell.
Yeah.
I guess that's kind of a Solacene tactic as well.
Yeah.
Just spam posters and people get tired and they're like, fine, I'll listen.
Exactly. And then the third one is the wellness industry, which is probably the one I'm most sucked into at the moment.
Right.
Of like supplements and like skincare and things.
I mean, that's not really fashion though.
No, it's not.
But as of recording, we have a salt lamp. We were going to try and find a way to squeeze into frame Himalayan salt lamp. Mm-hmm. So I guess we're both
we're both in that industry. I think I would also like to talk about probably a devoted episode, skincare and makeup at some point. That's
fashion. When else are we going to talk about that?
So that'll come up. But
I did have one conclusion about the football boots, because, for instance, they'll have like the speed line, which is it's a race to the bottom, kind of like when phones were like, how thin can they go on MacBooks? It's like, how light can they go? And I remember Adidas was like, oh, we have a 99-gram boot.
What?
Yeah, like crazy, crazy light. And they're always like revealed on a plinth and it'll be like spinning or something like that, as if it's like this golden chalice. They do not make you run faster, but the ads make you think that they do. And they'll show like Messi running past someone or Mbappe running past someone. And it's like, Mbappe's boots being light aren't the reason why he runs past players.
No, I don't think so.
But the thing is, they make you think that. And something else that I experienced is that they make you feel that when you wear them.
Yeah,
like that's the most interesting thing. You feel faster and you probably are faster when you wear them. Mm-hmm. So that kind of is an introduction to me to the placebo, that's my nickname, effect of advertising, and how sometimes it can maybe be used for good, or at least not a negative thing. Yeah,
I think it definitely can be. Like the wellness industry is the biggest example of that comes to mind, but we often talk about like dressing for success, dress for who you want to be.
Yeah.
And I think that definitely has a real impact on how you behave and how you think about yourself. Your confidence is a big part of why we wear clothes. Yeah. So I think it's okay, but I think in marketing, the companies need to be responsible for this. Like, they can't, like in Canada, it's illegal to make false claims. Like any concrete claim needs to be backed by several studies.
Yeah.
And like obviously those can be fabricated and they are for some things, but it's changed quite a lot even in the last 10, 20 years of like claims, because like Adidas probably 20 years ago could just say, these will make you faster.
Yeah, I think now they have to use, it's like a beginner film student. Now they have to use some montage techniques. So instead of saying that, they'll just cut between Messi and a leopard running really fast. Or just have him holding a goat.
Yeah, I'm not saying he is the goat, but he's holding a goat.
Yeah.
So.
Like Ronaldo with his goatee. Another kind of angle of marketing that I guess I fall for a little bit, but not really, because it's not so much the brands. And I don't know if aesthetics count towards this, but it's just like crispy, I guess, Ivy League or prep. There's a bunch of different names for this, but old catalogs from like Ralph Lauren or or J. Crew of people standing around on a college campus. Those kind of get me. Or on TikTok, they call it old money.
Yeah.
So I think it's quite funny how these marketing buzzwords get repurposed and updated on different platforms for different generations, I suppose you'd say.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's definitely part of it falling for aesthetics because brands use that. I think it's probably always been around, but the internet definitely makes it, exasperates it a bit. Of, okay, maybe there's a cottagecore community and they start promoting a brand like, oh, this like cider brand. They really do really cool clothes that are cottagecore. But then that brand will then say, we are cottagecore, we are the cottagecore.
Yeah.
It's like a cycle.
Do cider brands make clothes?
No, cider is the name of a clothing line.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought it was just like this
sorry,
weird
that was
crossover that I didn't realize, like people wearing merch for their apple cider. Well, think about Wimbledon. You know, like the ball kids, everyone feels classy. Oh, that's why I was kind of getting at with the placebo. It's like, it doesn't have to be performance related or athletically, but you feel different wearing a polo shirt to wearing a t-shirt. Even though they're pretty much the same on your body. But one will make you be like, oh,
I'm going to go catch the tennis balls.
Yeah. But speaking of merch, I think we should also share a word on that because that's not like brand marketing. It's more, I don't know, IP marketing. But it's a similar, sometimes I feel the allure of it. And I think this might be because, one, I'm just quite a shy person. And two, you know, society is atomized in all the ways that we talk about on Solacene, so that it feels like a shortcut to meeting people. If you wear a shirt or have a tote bag representing your favorite independent bookstore or whatever it is, it feels like people will then flock to you and say, I buy books there as well.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
I don't think they do that. But maybe it signals to them anyway.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you were like you're meeting up with someone on a first date or like you're meeting someone for the first time and you wear a shirt that's like your favorite podcast, and then we don't have shirts. I'm not trying to plug anything. And then it's like you're kind of putting a feeler out there. But I think there has to be some pretense because I don't think I've ever gone up to someone and been like, whoa, you shop there? Or you listen to that? I don't think I've ever done that.
I think I would.
Yeah?
If it was something really, really niche that I was into. I mean, sometimes even I'll be wearing a Barcelona shirt around, and sometimes someone will say, go Barca or something like that.
Yeah, that's true.
There is something to it. The sports. You once bought me a Nintendo Switch shirt.
Did I?
Yes. Don't you remember that in university? The red and orange one.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, it is weird.
I think we've evolved quite a bit.
Yeah, because Uniqlo, they also have collabs. Probably not the most sustainable fashion company right there, but they have collabs with different IPs. And I think I had a Splatoon shirt.
You did have a Splatoon one. It was purple.
Yeah, very like man-child core. No offense to anybody currently wearing a Splatoon shirt, but if you're over the age no, I'm not going to say that.
Check yourself.
And then the third kind of marketing ploy that I wanted to mention was something that we discussed this week, which was the stranglehold that Hollister, American Eagle, and Aeropostale, I think is how you pronounce it, had over our respective middle schools. And maybe all the ones in Nova Scotia, maybe all the ones in Canada, North America, the Western world. I don't know. The universe. I think middle schools have moved on past that, but during our time, it was, and probably for the decades before, like the logo mania was out of control.
It was wild. I like every single day for probably a year or two, I just would wear a t-shirt that had one of those brands on it.
You had them?
Like skinny jeans. Yeah, all secondhand,
right.
Mind you. But I did have them because from a young age, I was a thrifter. You could
that
say.
kind of thing, which I guess I'd call brand for the sake of brand, because they were just regular t-shirts. Yeah, they were kind of ugly, and also they were just t-shirts. There was nothing remotely special, not sustainable, not like, I'm guessing, extra comfortable, extra durable, nothing. It was just like t-shirts. The same as the ones that I used to wear from Walmart, or the plain ones that you get from H&M. You know, if it just has a seagull on it, that doesn't... In fact, I would often kind of reject those kind of things because I had a weird preference for plainness. But you were telling me also that the stores are pitch black on the inside. What's with that?
I think Hollister in particular, it was pitch black and reeked of like whatever their house brand perfume was, and it did not.
I didn't know they made smells.
They did, and it was like all those marketing techniques of stores of like play loud music, play upbeat music. It was like all of that to like the most extreme.
Confuse people.
Like you wanted to get out of there.
You walk in and they just spin you around 5 times.
Basically.
Buy something.
Yeah. And they were really like on top of you. And yeah, I think the darkness is to make you be like, to just kind of make mistakes and maybe then have to like return stuff.
Because you said your mom did that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, she bought me a coat and she's like, I thought it was red. I know, because I really hated wearing pink and I still don't love wearing pink. But she was like, I'm sorry, like it's hot pink.
Yeah.
I really thought it was red in the store. And I was like, that's okay. but that's how dark it was.
But neither of us are brand or logo fiends, I would say.
No.
And I think it's because, as I say, brands for the sake of them, they don't really work. But if it feigns some kind of technical expertise, that's when I'll get interested.
Yeah.
Like Arc'teryx or something. Like that's when you'll be like, oh, I need to do that so I can go camping. I guess that's something that's also kind of programmed to me a little bit. And then we kind of talked about big campaigns, but a stat I had was that affiliate marketing is increasing 20% each year in the fashion industry.
Yeah.
So it's like more and more companies are just devoting their money away from the traditional in air quotes, because online marketing hasn't even been around that long, but away from print, obviously, and away from, wider online campaigns and more just paying influencers.
Yeah, absolutely. That's most of their marketing budgets these days.
So why do you think that is?
Well, as someone who studied marketing in university.
Yeah. I also saw the stat, take it with a grain of salt, that affiliate marketing has an average return of 12 to 1.
It's wild. I mean, I also do that for a job. So I'm not the marketer, but I connect people. And yeah, so I studied marketing in university and they were like, this was kind of right when it was taking off. Like it was a thing, but they didn't have much research on it yet because it was a bit early on. And they were saying, traditionally, the most trustworthy person is going to be your friend.
Yeah.
Like, you'll always trust your friend's opinion. If you're going to go buy a new set of pans, you'll ask them, say, like, what's the best pans?
Maybe even more than you'll trust Gordon Ramsay's.
Absolutely.
Right? Like, maybe even more than I'll trust Neymar, I'll trust some smaller scale football influencer, right?
Yeah, or just like your friend. And then the influencers are in between because, as you know, when you are watching a YouTuber every week, you feel psychologically connected to them and like they're your friend. Our brains can't differentiate very well between reality and like what we see on the screen. So it's just like cutting out all the middlemen and going straight to your psyche, basically, and saying, this is your friend Hitomi who's recommending that you get BetterHelp. And then you get BetterHelp.
Something that's really interesting to me as well is this phenomenon of, we like to think that all those people are sponsored. But there's probably a lot of people making YouTube and TikTok videos advertising brands that aren't being paid by the brands, that just do it in an aspirational way. Like, well, maybe one day I want to be paid by the brands, but for now I'll just make this video about my Everlane haul and hope that they sponsor me. So they're getting kind of free advertising. Like you turn yourself into a billboard is what people always say, but this is to another level. Yeah,
absolutely. Because it's a good technique for influencers to build like brand recognition with their community and say, look, this TikTok got 1 million views where I featured your thing. And sometimes brands will pay them like, what's the word? Not
just give them gifts.
Yeah. And like they'll pay them after the fact, or they'll say, okay, cool, now I'll sponsor a video. But
maybe next week we can talk about one of the most traditional methods of fashion advertising, the magazine. Maybe the death of the magazine, the potential revival in the Solacene. We have zines. Also, if you like the podcast, that's a pretty good segue.
Yeah,
buy our zines. They're linked in the description of the episode, and there's also clothes like the ones you can see behind me. And yesterday, we went to a market for the first time, and that was a fun experience.
Yeah, it definitely was. We'll do a few more, and if you're in Montreal listening, you can follow us on Instagram, and you can maybe come and see us, and we would
I don't know. Do we do that?
I would be happy to see people.
But I mean, would you put it on Instagram? We're going to be here.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't see why not.
Sure.
We'll discuss.
I had a few notes. That's why I drew that little dude that I showed you before we started recording. You can describe him for the audience.
He's a man, but it looks kind of like his hands and feet are both feet.
Yeah, he looks a little bit like Gumby by accident. It was just notes I had about ways that potential solar sites people, rather than on a structural level like we talk about after, can kind of deprogram themselves, I think, using the body as a kind of model. Because the body is what the clothes go on, and it's also the answer maybe to stop falling for the affiliate marketing evil schemes.
Oh.
And there was this quote that I read on, I think it was episode 3 by Rick Owens. It said about how working out is a new couture and, you know, don't buy clothes, go to the gym instead. It's along those lines. I just kind of think if you feel happy and healthy when you look in the mirror, I'd say with no clothes on, then you'll be less inclined to fall for marketing that says, buy this to feel this or buy this to look this way, right? Because you're kind of starting the bargaining from a position of strength, I guess. It's a weird way to put it. So from the top down, starting with the hair, which looks a little bit like worms on my drawing. I just had the note that maybe a good way of feeling nice about yourself is with your hair. And I feel like this is less, you know, that won't be sold to you so much because it's part of you.
It's true.
So maybe just change your hair up or something like that. Yeah. And I think something that also shows you is, this sounds pretentious, but like all the almost infinite potentialities of the individual, i.e., you can look like 100 different people without having to buy anything. Try and bleach it. Try and shave it. Get bangs. Curl your bangs. Straighten your bangs. Who knows what? Cut it yourself. Do some fun stuff like that. Yeah. Customize.
Cool.
And then going down to the
eyes.
The eyes. This one is about discernment.
Ooh.
And I think it means kind of honing your gaze like an artist. One, so that you can see through, you know, false promises in advertising. You're like, wait a second, you're just cutting that footage of the athlete with a leopard. He's not really running that fast, and it won't make me run that fast. But also, you know, literally looking at the product and saying, this actually doesn't look that great when you take away the smoke and mirrors. Maybe looking at your own clothes and kind of falling in love with the details so that you are feel more of a sentimental connection maybe to the things that you own. Maybe that's not a good thing though, I don't know. And then going down to the
mouth.
The mouth. For me, I always weigh up when I'm shopping, which doesn't happen very often. But if I have something in my hands, I'm like, I could buy this. I always weigh up, would I rather spend the money on food? Mm-hmm. And it's not from like a real, you know, financial struggle, as in I can only afford one of these. It's a little bit more like, would I just prefer to have the weight of this in chips or in potatoes or something like that? And it's funny because this is not advice, but it's just like my own, I guess it is advice. Forget that, it's advice. But it's opposite to the advice that my parents always gave me, which is that if you have money, you should only ever spend it on things that you can hold. Like they would always say about food, you know, like if someone blew like my sister always used to waste allowance on like snacks and stuff. Mm-hmm. And they would always say, well, what do you have to show for it? But I think food like makes you feel nice. Maybe it's because I might be technically a food addict. Not sure about that.
We're not sure on that one.
Yeah, we're not sure about that.
Jury's out.
But I just think sometimes why wear like really nice clothes instead of just getting a really nice smoothie? Pretty much whatever your nutrition goals, I think everybody, like it's possible to spend more to have nicer versions of it kind of thing. So like, why not just do that? Why not just get the really nice oats? The next thing, moving down to the
hands,
which look like
feet.
It says do things. And this means put umbrella theory into action and just always be more concerned with what you do rather than how you look while doing it. And then moving down finally to the
feet that look like feet.
Yeah. And this just says go places. And I think it means like on a wider level, when you travel, you see different styles. And on the one hand, it kind of punctures the apparent significance of fashion, but it also reinforces it in a weird way. Like I think it makes you fall in love with it a little bit. And from a smaller scale, leaving your bubble of everyone on my campus dresses like this, everyone in my office dresses like this, and so you can kind of get a little bit more variety and not fall into the mold. Also, I forgot one thing which was in the middle, which is posture.
Yeah, posture is really great.
Because I think in the Solacene, everybody has good posture and neck posture, which is what most people neglect, I think, because we're always typing.
It's true. So I had a little bit
You wear the clothes, they don't wear you. You wear the clothes.
And they don't wear you.
Yeah, that'll be like this semester's content, but...
No one's content.
Yeah.
I had a little bit about the psychology of advertising as well as laws. So for psychology, I said that at the beginning that it's building empathy towards a product or service to help you become more inclined to buy or use it. So just keep that definition in mind when you are being marketed to. And for advertising laws, I think this will segue into what the Solacene will be for advertising, but existing ones say you can't mislead or even just like be cheeky about it and leave a general impression. Like you can't technically legally do that. Lots of people do. You can't have like performance claims. This is kind of new, but it's like you can't say, obviously like the shoes will make you faster, but with any health products, you can't say this will change your life or like this will change your skin.
Okay.
Because it's a lie. False testimonials are not allowed. So you can't have like a pretend doctor or a pretend influencer that's actually paid by the company, which is obviously impossible to discern and probably impossible to prove in court if you were charged of it. Made in Canada claims or made anywhere, like you really have to substantiate those, and brands don't always. And we often see it'll say like designed in Italy, made in China. Like they'll follow the rules, but it might be in the tiniest print inside the pocket where it says made in China, but the label will say designed in Canada or something like that.
Yeah.
But that's kind of skirting around the rule.
What about animated dragonfly mascots? Are they illegal?
Those are allowed.
Okay,
yeah.
good. 'Cause I was
Except in Quebec, you're not allowed to advertise to kids under 13.
What?
Period. Yeah.
I guess that's good.
I think it's good too. And I think our dragonfly.
But how do you determine who they're advertising to?
It's like the programming, I'm pretty sure. So it's like you couldn't on Nickelodeon, it might be fine because the kids watching that are over 13, but you couldn't on like Treehouse channel.
Yeah.
And you probably couldn't in like a kids play park for under 12s. But you could in the museum.
Yeah, I wasn't putting up any posters there anyway.
Yeah. But I thought that was interesting. And the rest of Canada, it's fine, except for if it's on one of those kids' channels, it has to abide by, there's a whole separate marketing act for kids marketing, which I think is good.
Yeah. So in the Solacene, I just had 5 broad notes for the advertising, what it would look like in our beautiful, sustainable, tactile future. My first note is that the advertising itself is beautiful, sustainable, and tactile, or at least more so than it is today. Because so many things, when they come to me either online or I just pass them on posters or whatever it may be, my first thought is that's ugly. Why would that make me want to buy it? I'm not even talking about the product, but just the design of the ads. So I think sometimes, well, all the time, they look nice.
Yeah, I think so.
They look nice. Because, I mean, if you have to have this ad in your space,
at least make it look nice.
At least make it look nice.
Yeah. My first thing is that there won't be many, if any, digital advertisements, and they'll all be physical or otherwise.
Tactile.
There'll probably be, there'll be more posters, more billboards, honestly. There'll be limits. That's my fourth thing. But I think right now we rely so much on the digital, but we could be a bit more, it's in a newspaper or whatever. And I think that's more Solacene.
Yeah. Well, we're talking about the magazines coming back next week. For billboards.
Maybe just like those bus stop ones.
Yeah, I do like those bus stop ones.
Yeah.
Billboards, I think they can uglify up a road quite quickly. If we had a Solacene billboard, what would be on it?
Just the dragonfly.
A little
no words.
PNG dragonfly that you doodled. I bet that would look really good blown up to 50 times.
Absolutely.
Life size.
My next one is word of mouth, as I mentioned earlier. But I think in the Solacene, it will be a bit more, you'll have to because you won't be having ads at the time. So it'll be like, I actually don't know what type of socks to get.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I like the idea of having to ask people.
Yeah.
Because now it's almost redundant.
Yeah.
It's almost like, if someone asks me, oh, do you know any good backpack brands? I would kind of look at them and say, why can't you look at it? Why do you have to rely on me to do it? But it would be nice if we actually did rely on each other for those kind of nodes of information. That would be neat.
And my next one is, I like in like the olden days, you'd go into the store and be like, what's the best oats you got or whatever.
Yes.
And this is a bit of an idea, but it's that each commodity, at least commodities, are represented by a co-op or like a union. And so they're all together. It's like Dairy Farmers of Canada, which I really used to hate, but now I like the Dairy Farmers of Canada.
No, I mean, this is how it was for most of industrialized history, I
Mhm.
think you'd have guilds.
Yeah.
You had your blacksmiths guilds, your farmers guilds, the cobblers guild, whatever it is.
Exactly. So they're not competing, but they're like working together to empower each other. I think that's a very Solacene idea and will help alleviate the marketing stress.
So you mean you want to have like Apple versus PC?
Yeah.
You want to have that kind of thing?
It'll
You'd be
split
like
the computer guild.
the computer guild.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I wouldn't like that guild so much. So. My second point was safe spaces.
Okay.
I think if we just had sanctuaries to keep our minds clear, I know there are places that advertising isn't allowed, but if we expanded those, and I guess as you mentioned, making digital ones, because right now the internet is just like pop-ups everywhere.
Yeah.
And most websites suck
Mm-hmm. Because of that.
because of ads.
Yeah.
Also, what about those ads that follow you around? What's with that?
Oh, I don't
You go on one website and then it'll be that product that you maybe clicked on just following you from website to website.
Yeah.
None of that.
No.
Maybe that's something to do with those cookies
Yeah.
that none of us know what they are.
Yeah,
I think that's to do with cookies
I think that makes sense.
because it's like a trail of cookies. I think that's what that means.
Huh.
I
None
don't.
of
I
that
just
in the
made that up.
Solacene. None of that in the Solacene.
Also, I think honesty, transparency. What I have written down is, here's what the thing is. Wouldn't that be nice?
This is what it is.
Just say, here's what the thing is. And I think that demonstrates a kind of faith in the products. Because I think the best companies will just put it like that. Or the companies that actually are happy with what they make will mostly just do it like that. Like Patagonia kind of does that.
Yeah.
They just say, that's the fleece. You know what it looks like.
Yeah.
You know what it feels like. I guess that's something that we try and do for like our clothes and zines.
Mm-hmm.
Just say,
it's here.
here's what it is. We're really happy with it.
Yeah.
We think they're really nice. Buy one if you want. Kind of like those, we always talked about those small websites that have the like alpaca farms on, and they'll just say, look at these mittens we made. And they're really excited about them.
Yeah.
But I also think regarding transparency, in some ways in the Solacene, maybe having even more engagement with the brands, as in, maybe not checking soccerbible.com every day to find out which shirts and boots are released, but why not have a Nike emissions website where you can check what's going on?
Yeah,
That's kind
it
of
won't
neat.
be as wasteful. So like maybe things are going to be out of stock a lot more, so you have to kind of check in with them, message them, say, hey, like when will this be in stock? Or something like that.
I just meant in terms of the actual functioning of the company.
I see.
Like, those sustainability brands that are like, this came from our sheep called Lawrence. And then that.
Yeah.
But it's a little bit gimmicky when it's like that. But I think it could be more transparent. Like literally just have a live stream of the farm.
Yeah.
That's kind of neat. Well, maybe not the whole farm, but at least see the sheep roaming around.
Yeah.
And there's that Bo Burnham sketch where he talks about how in the modern day, people are always like boycotting their snack company because they didn't support their social cause on Twitter. It doesn't need to be like that. But if it's a clothes company, wouldn't it make sense to know what they're doing with their fabrics and such? That would be a neat addition. And it's also kind of a free advertising for these companies because it's not like it would cost a lot to do. It's more like the customer opting into it. And then I have the note of more psychologically robust buyers so that people don't fall for the big poster with the personification of the government pointing at you, or in your case, Everlane, targeting you or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And my visualization for this in the Solacene is akin to the shift from children's programming to adults programming, where ads for kids, like ads for toys, are ridiculous because they're so sugary, so colorful, upbeat music, people acting silly. But ads for adults, they're more mature, they're slower, they're a bit more subtle with their like psychological tendrils. But in the Solacene, it'll be like another level of, okay, we know you're not babies.
Yeah.
Like that. Unfortunately, I do think this is going in the opposite direction, that I see more adults programming starting to resemble more and more kids programming.
Yeah, like rapid and just like...
Yeah, really rapid.
Wow,
really
so wild
exactly.
and wacky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the last point is just local, because that's what's cool. And I think more and more that will become, like that will just keep becoming cool, eco, because people will realize that there is no individuality to be had in a big corporation. Even if it's vintage Nike, it's still Nike.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I think people really do like those tote bags with the bookstores on. And it's because the bookstore, there's place to it. And people have a yearning for place. And so I've seen that yearning will be fulfilled.
Absolutely. Okay, well, that's all I had for this week.
I was going to quote Macklemore at some point during this episode.
Do you want to end with that?
What does he say? He says something about, just listen to his song, the one about consumerism.
Okay. That's our Solacene recommends for this week.
Listen to that
Macklemore.
one song.
Okay.
I don't know what it's called.
Okay.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.